Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're finally kind of getting back on track. So I'm going to be doing the full review of the Scythe Susanoo because I got hounded by everyone, which is great. I always welcome it. I called it the Susanoo before because I called it the Susanoo before. Just read it as I saw it, but apparently I've had it all explained to me about it's a Japanese god of the ocean or something like that, and it's the Susanoo. Anyway, so Susanoo. Now this thing, if you haven't already seen, I've already done like a preview video of this, so if you want to have another look at this, go to the channel, find it out, or I'll stick a link in if I actually remember to do it, but I'll give you a quick overview now. But this is really going to be about the testing and stuff. Now, these fans are 400mm fans, not 120mm fans. 120mm fans also won't really fit either because it's pretty much made for these. Now you've got 420mm fans. This also comes with a PCI bracket which has got the power on there, so you've not got to worry about all the power. The fifth cable is so you can connect that to your motherboard or a fan header if you want, so you can monitor the fan speeds. We will be running it, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it at low and high speed, so minimum and maximum on this PCI tester. Now, like I said, we'll have a quick look. As you can see that you've got the 4 fans there. If I turn it sideways, you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 heat pipes in total. Now this part of the heatsink is designed to go over your graphics card, and then you've got a little cutout here, or a little missing bit here, which the only thing I can honestly think is this is so that if your graphics card power comes out the top and then round, it kind of misses it all nicely. So you have the main body part. If we turn this side on, you have this main body part over your CPU and motherboard. This bit would be like your MOSFETs, and your RAM would be on this side underneath the big cutout, and then this section here would be your graphics card. Now as you can see, there's a hell of a lot of material in this. It's not small by any stretch of the imagination. I just want to give you a rough idea of how it's going to fit. Now we are going to fit it, and I will give you a good look in anyway, but as you can see it does fit in what is now going to be my new heatsink test case. I've switched over to the Fractal. It's a more kind of standard ATX layout. It's just got a couple of 120mm in the front. I've added an extra Fractal fan in the front, 120 in the back, and I've also added another Fractal 120 in the top. All these fans are going to be used at 100% throughout testing, and that's the way it's going to be for all the heatsinks now. From now on, I just fancied a change from the 690, and where I just reviewed this, I decided to move this one in. But basically, the Susanoo does fit in the case. So pretty much the best thing that I can say for it is obviously like your motherboard blocks and stuff like that will be dependent, but as long as you've got 120mm exhaust in the back of your case, and you're happy that it's going to fit on your motherboard, obviously you're not going to have RAM problems, but you're not going to get any problems with your motherboard and stuff, then it should pretty much fit. Which is, considering its size, it's obvious that they have thought about its considerable size and factored that into the design. That's why we've got 100mm fans and not 120s, because if they're 120s it'd make it that much too much bigger. It pretty much just fits over the motherboard, and it doesn't really overhang anywhere, so it's quite good in that respect. But what I'm going to do, because it's basically just the normal side fitting, I wasn't a massive fan of that before. It is a bit of a pain in the bum, but when this is that bit bigger, I'm near enough going to be able to turn the case over, and I shouldn't have too much of a problem. But I'm going to get it fitted, and then I'll bring you in with the camera in my hand. We'll have a close-up look, have a look round so you can see everything. And then, as always, I will do the 4 GHz testing, 200x20 at 1.25 volts with a 950. Then I will do 1.35 volts at 4.2 GHz with 200x21. And we'll see how we get on. So I'm not going to treat this any different to anything else, apart from I am going to take, I've used this board before, but I'm going to take some temperatures of stuff around the board as well, just because of where the fans do blow at the system and the graphics card. It's a kind of like a system wide cooler. And nice and early, what I will say is this is going to be coming in around the £80 mark. In between the breaks in me testing and stuff, I will get an exact price for you from Quiet PC, because in my stupendously stupid relaxed attitude I forgot to do it before I recorded this bit of the video. But I'm going to be quiet and get this baby fitted to the board. Right then guys and girls, here's a look at it in the system. As you can see, the 4 lots of 100mm fans. I know people will always moan about the way I say stuff. That's with it on low speed fans. I'll take you in for a listen. It is really quiet actually. I can actually hear the board more than I can the fans. If I turn it up to maximum, there is a fair bit of fan noise then. But again, I'm just going to put the camera here so you can listen to the fan noise. That's down on low now. Back up to high again. But there's absolutely gazillions of room around the RAM. As you can see, about the cutout here would nicely line up with if you had your graphics card power supply, you know, coming in here, you probably would just about be able to get it round. But that's, I'm pretty sure, why that cutout is there, because with the Gigabyte you can see the card's 2 slots down anyway, so if that was further up you'd still be able to get your graphics in there. I don't think it's actually mentioned to be mounted this way in the Susanoo manual, but it's the only way that makes sense to me, to be quite honest with you. If you move it any other way, yeah, it just doesn't fit right, or it overhangs the board too much. This way you can see it all fits in and around the ATX layout, fits over your graphics card, just no problems whatsoever. One thing I will say though is if I give you a look this way, you can see that there's very little room at the back, and when you do put a door on, the fan noise does get louder. I mean, I don't know whether you'll pick it up if I do this. I'm going to try and simulate it with a book, but if you just listen, hang on, I'll try and do it without pulling the fan in. Just listen for the fan noise change. Now, it does that pretty much when you put the door on as well. So with the door on, there is a bit more noise there where it's having to suck and, you know, pull round the door. But the reason why I used the R3 is this is going to be our new heatsink case rig for a little while, and also it's pretty much a standard ATX case with a 120mm rear exhaust fan, so it's pretty much the as close as you can get to an average case. It's pretty normal for 120 exhausts. It's, you know, not an overly wide case, it's not an overly thin case, it's just about normal for want of a better term, so that's why I decided to use it in this. But anyway, let's crack on with some testing. Right then guys, first test, door open as you can see blatantly, fans on low, 1.25 volts in BIOS, for 200x20 for 4 gigahertz, and then the temperatures when I took them, if I just show you the ambient, 20.2. Temperatures when I took mine were 80, 78, 76, 77, giving us a 77.75 average temperature across all the cores. Ambient is 20.2, so if you take that away, that gives us 57.55 degrees delta temperature with the door open. So now we're going to put the door on, as you'd expect with a normal case, and test all over again after I've let this idle for half an hour. Hey guys, low fans, door is on, still got a 20.3 ambient, 4 gigahertz, 200 times 20. Look at the temperatures, and we're only about 10 minutes into this test. Well, not even that really. Look, see the test started at 11:42. Okay, we're 5 minutes into the test. Right, you can see that the temperatures are already hitting 90 odd degrees. So I'm going to stop the test now because I really don't want to cook my CPU. Let that cool down a bit, but as you can see, this cooler really does need an awful lot of airflow to be able to get good temps. But I'm going to go back now and I'm going to do door open with the fans on high this time and run all the tests again. Right then guys, got the fan on max this time with the door open. Ambient temperatures are 23.4, when I took mine they were 23.3. Anyway, you can see prime's been running, still running 1.25 volts in the BIOS for 4 gigahertz, 200 times 20. Temperatures are there. When I took my results I got 74, 73, 72, 71, giving me an average of 72.5. minus the 23.3 degrees ambient temperature, and that gives you a 49.2 degrees delta temperature. So yeah, 49.2 degrees delta temperature. That's with the door open and the fans on maximum. Right, let's get the door on now and see how the cooler fares with it that way. Right then guys, 4 gigahertz, fans on high, ambient temperature is now just 20.7 degrees because I've taken a short break. You can see that prime has been running for a good while there. Still at 4 gigahertz, 1.25 volts. Come down to the temperatures now. Right, when I took my results I got 82, 83, 81, 82, giving me an average temperature of 82 degrees. If you take away the 20.7 degrees ambient temperature, that gives you a delta temperature 61.3 degrees. That's for 4.6, sorry, that's for 4 gigahertz at 1.25 volts with the door on. And with the fans set to maximum. Right then guys, yes, different shirt, because this video has been videoed over a couple of stages because I wanted to make sure that I got everything right here, and I also spoke to Scythe about a few things as well, which is the reason why I changed the testing compared to what I would normally do. Basically, with this video, unlike other videos, I did take the door off because Scythe were adamant that with higher clocks, Scythe were adamant with the higher fan speed and the door off, it would beat the D14, as in the Nocturne XD14. Even with the high fans and the door off, with my testing, with my volts, it didn't at all. Which is one of the things a lot of people kept saying to me, will it beat the D14? Now, before we start going into the tests, let me explain a few things, you know, the way I do things really. With the Susanoo, where it blows down at your case, and it is so large and so raised up, when you put the side panel on, you're only going to be having like about 5 or 10 mil of a gap there. So it's going to be drawing the air all round in that tiny little gap, which is why the wind noise or the air noise goes up. It also will reduce airflow. Now I've used this chassis, right shoulder, well, it's actually my left shoulder, but point over the right one. I've used this chassis in many rigs, including having a D14 in there, and it does not suffer with airflow problems at all. Quite the opposite really, because you can set these cases up to be really cool and quiet. The problem with this chassis, and what you'll have with a lot of cases, is the fact that where the Susanoo is so big, the door will heavily be reducing the airflow that can then get blown over the fins and over the board and everything like that. So this cooler is better suited for cases that are either a lot wider, and I mean significantly wider. Now it's pointless you now sending me 20 million questions about, is my case this wide? Have a look, you've got your case, you've only got to look at the rear fan and you'll know how wide your case is, because if you get extra meat past the 120mm fan at the back, or if you've got 140mm fan at the back, like for argument's sake the Colossus has, you're going to have a lot more room for the heatsink to breathe, so it will be able to get more air in there. Or if you've got a case that's got a mesh on the side, something like that, then that will also you know, really suit this, because it'll be able to draw extra air in. If you've got a side panel fan and a 120mm exhaust fan at the back, it won't fit, as in a side panel fan that goes over the CPU fan. It won't fit. You'd be better off taking your side panel fan off, for argument's sake, if you were going to use this in a NZXT Phantom, just taking the side panel fan off altogether and just letting the cooler pull the air in itself. But you will still get that wind noise. Now, the temperatures. On low fan speed, it was quite quiet. Not impressive, yes, to an extent, because it was very quiet, but there wasn't a massive amount of airflow there. Wasn't really making a lot of difference to any of the board temperatures or anything like that with it on the low speeds. Obviously, some airflow is better than no airflow, but now we had a 77.75 degrees average with a 57.55 degree delta at low fans. Now, not being funny, there's a lot of cheaper coolers out there on the market, not necessarily the Silver Hour or the D14, that will beat that ambient as well as being nigh on silent. The £30 Thermolab Trinity will do that kind of temperature roughly for, yeah, like I said, 30 quid, so it's like almost a third of the price of the Susanoo. That was with low fans and the door on, by the way. With low fans and the door off. Low fans and the door on, it failed, obviously. It hit 90 degrees, that's my cut-off point now. If the cooler hits 90 degrees, it's not coping. Now, high speed fans, door off, 72.5 degree average with a 49.2 degrees delta. Now, sub 50 delta is actually pretty respectable. It's up there with the better coolers. But like I said, it needed the fans up high, and it also needed the door off. Now, it's not silent with the fans up high. It's not. I've heard a lot worse. The Zalman CPNS 990 Max thing, that was definitely worse on high speed. There's been a few other ones as well. I mean, because I'm not a big fan of, noise really. There's no excuse nowadays for having to have your fans on, 3,000 RPM to be able to keep reasonable temperatures when you've got coolers out there on the market that can do better temperatures with silence. So I don't see why you would want to kind of, not have one if you can have both. With the door on, the temperature actually went up by 12 degrees, just to show you the difference. Now, that 12 degree bump, still only at 4 gigahertz, still only at 1.25 volts. So it went up from 49.2 delta up to 61.3 delta just by putting the door on. So this cooler really does need a big case, or lots of mesh on the side, or no side panel fan at all. Now if you've got mesh on the side, no side panel, or no side panel at all, you're going to suffer with dust in a big way, especially if you've got the fans all turned up and everything. Now this is quite difficult because I do get on with Scythe quite well, and they did send me a lot of these coolers as well for our overclocking team, and they're having their own little kind of overclocking competition at the moment, and all playing around with some AMD gear. So I am in a big debt of gratitude to Scythe for that, but because of the way I do things, I've obviously got to tell you the way it is. Now the Susanoo is going to be coming in around £80, £80. Now even if you said the D14 was 60 quid, that's a £20 more expensive cooler. Yeah, alright, it's bigger, but that's because of the way it works and blows air at your board and everything. So we'll ignore the size for the time being, but it is noisier and it's not as cool either. And it's heavily dependent on you having to have the side panel off to get good temperatures. Whereas with the D14, it would have got, you know, better temperatures than the Susanoo with the side panel on. Even if the Susanoo had the side panel off, for argument's sake, 49.2, the D14 would have beat that score even with the side panel on. So that's to kind of put it into context. So it's an amazing bit of engineering. I love something that's a bit different. I mean, it does. Do you know what I mean? You can't get away from the fact that it is quite, you know, it's quite big and it's going to grab your attention, and there are going to be a lot of people going to get this just because of how big it's going to be, and they want their rig to look like that because it does look quite industrial. It does cover up a lot. If you've got problems with airflow in your case and stuff like that, or at least like with fans and stuff like that, you may really want it. But I've got to say, I wouldn't tell you to buy this. It's just that little bit too expensive. Well, no, actually, it's just expensive, and it's just not that quiet enough either. So if it's too much money, it's not quiet enough, and the temperatures still aren't, you know, brilliant, then there's not really a lot I can say about it, which is a big shame, to be quite honest with you, because when I first saw this, I was like, oh, it actually looks really good. I'm a little bit disappointed that it doesn't perform better. But one thing I will say is if you're getting this because of bad airflow in your case, what you then need to remember is if you've got bad airflow in your case, this severely relies on good, you know, airflow. And chucking loads and loads and loads of fans at your rig doesn't necessarily solve your problem. You need to be able to have decent in-out airflow. And a lot of people seem to think, just throw loads of fans blowing in my case and one blowing out. Wrong. Cold air in the bottom, hot air out the top. You need to flow. You need to get the air coming in and going out. So just remember that, and it definitely applies to this as well. One thing I will say is if you do get this and you've got roof fans, they will be great to use because when it's pushing the air at the board, you can then have your roof fan sucking that hot air straight out again. So that is definitely something I would suggest if you do get this and you've got roof panel fans. And like I said, it's not brilliant. I'm not going to you know, go around and about and go about it in a bad way, but it's quite an awe-inspiring cooler. They definitely deserve a thumbs up for it, to be perfectly honest, for taking that brave step. But it just doesn't perform as well as you'd think it would do with the size. So maybe there wasn't enough research and development done with this, and they just went for all-out kind of like massiveness rather than trying to get everything kind of sorted. But I'd love to see them if they went away and did a Susanoo 2 or something like that. Maybe made it a little bit bigger with 120mm fans or something, and maybe a better fin design. Because one of the things I did think was where the actual heatsink fins are. Really, there isn't a lot of them. You've got the massive thick base, when I probably would have had like more fins and stuff going down as well. So that was a bit of a strange one, because obviously you need those fins to take the heat away from the heat pipes, and considering how big it is, there really wasn't much of surface area of those fins, in my own opinion, to be perfectly honest with you. But yes, a bit of a strange one, and that's why I've not done this video as soon as I would have done normally. It's because I wanted to keep going back at it and giving it another chance and looking at different things, taking the door off and stuff like this. I even went as far as to test the D14 again in this case, just to make sure it wasn't the case, you know, just to kind of tip things over in my own mind, and it wasn't. It's just this cooler. So yeah, sadly guys, not going to be giving Scythe an award for this one, because you know, when you kind of add all the things up that I've said, it's just not 100%. But anyway, with one of my new Overclock 3D t-shirts on, which you'll be hearing about very soon. Yeah, I shouldn't have said that really. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out.